Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So we're going to talk about why I don't do interfaith. And we're going to debunk the myth of the Jewish left in the United States. Because there's no such thing as the Jewish left. Why? Because they think they're the chosen people. And they do a lot of gatekeeping. Okay? They do a lot of gatekeeping. They think they're the chosen people. They think they're better than everybody. They do a lot of gatekeeping in Islam. Alhamdulillah, Islam is the one true religion. You know what I'm saying? Okay? So let's start off with a quote. So let's start off this quote. So Bernie Sanders said, as someone who is proudly Jewish, to be critical of a right-wing Netanyahu government is not to be anti-Semitic. And Steve Saleta had the perfect response for that. What about being critical of a liberal Zionist government in an ethnically cleansed Palestinian land, or criticizing Zionism or practicing BDS? And what if the critic isn't proudly Jewish? What if the critic is Palestinian? So basically Bernie is accusing Palestinians of being Semitic, who are Semitic, of being anti-Semitic. Bernie is using his weasel words to call Palestinians Semitic or anti-Semitic. Of course we're Semitic. What do you mean? What do you mean? So let's reread. So he's saying, basically, Bernie says, if you're not proudly Jewish, you can't criticize the Zionists, the right-wing Zionists, right? That's what Bernie says. And Steve Saleta says, basically, you're a racist Zionist, you believe in racism, okay? Your qualifications are actually worrisome, is what he said. What about criticizing a liberal Zionist government, criticizing Zionism, practicing BDS, and if the critic is not proudly Jewish, and what if the critic is Palestinian? This statement isn't brave. Its insidious qualifications are actually worrisome. So yeah, I agree with Steve right there. Bernie is a racist. Let's take a look at his record, okay? Let's take a look at Bernie Sanders' record. So Bernie supports the Zionist terror cult's right to exist. He's a liberal Zionist. Okay? He wants the House of Saud to work with Iran despite their mistrust. He wants Saudi and Bahrain and Qatar to invade Syria. He supports Daesh because addressing humanitarian crisis with allies in Syria, with allies in the region, that's what entails for him. He supports a two-state solution. Let's see. What else? And so yeah, he's a liberal Zionist. He supports the Zionist terror cult's right to exist. He supports a two-state solution. He wants the Khaliji countries to address the situation, to invade Syria, overthrow Assad, and put in a Khalifa. So he supports Daesh. And easy to overthrow a dictator, but hard to control the aftermath. So he supports regime change. So Bernie is a liberal Zionist, and he's a racist. And we're going to look at some more examples of, because, basically, yeah, a lot of the quote-unquote Jewish left, who are really just liberal Zionists, New Deal liberal Zionists, do a lot of gatekeeping. And there was a quote in the comment section of this tweet that I really related to. So, Claudio Ruiz, I don't know who that is, but shout out to Claudio Ruiz. By the way, shout out to Steve Saleta. We'll put this tweet back up on the screen here. Let me flip my screen. Shout out to Steve Saleta, man. Check him out, stevesaleta.com. We'll be reading his article in a little bit. So what about being critical of a liberal Zionist government upon ethnically cleansed Palestinian land, criticizing Zionism or practicing BDS? And what if the critic isn't proudly Jewish? And what if the critic is Palestinian? This statement isn't brave. Its insidious qualifications are actually worrisome. What does... And here we go. So Claudio Ruiz, shout out to Steve Saleta and shout out to Claudio Ruiz. Senator Sanders only reinforces the exclusivist narrative at the core of most allegedly pro-Palestinian organizations. Even within the Jewish Voice for Peace, non-Jewish folks are constantly asked to explain themselves simply for repeating what everyone else in the room is saying. So Zionist gatekeeping aside, in these liberal Zionist Jewish organizations, non-Jews are asked to repeat themselves and clarify, even though they're saying what everyone else in the room is saying. Okay, so we have another thread. So let's highlight let's do some examples of this. So there are a lot of Jewish American hypocrites that are Zionist gatekeepers. If there wasn't, I wouldn't be making this video. Okay, so where is this photo? Here we have Rose Asaf, who claims to be pro-Palestine. She has a South Korean friend and a Palestinian friend, who's a house Arab, by the way. I've exposed this person before. And they're at the Bernie Sanders rally. Okay. And this person, we're going to click on that profile. Sorry, I couldn't find my glasses this morning, so bear with me here. Esor, leftist, so pronoun, she, her, organizer with Code Pink. Now, who is Code Pink? So, here we go. When it comes to Code Pink, to Syria, Code Pink and Medea, so Code Pink's a liberal imperialist Zionist organization. When it comes to Code Pink and Medea Benjamin, comes to Syria, Code Pink and Medea Benjamin have been no different than other liberal imperialists. See the thread from Eva Bartlett. All right, so here's the thread from Eva Bartlett. I am not a robot. I am not a robot. I am a Martian. Okay. Unless I see Code Pink issue formal apologies for the offenses below against Syria, its people, and its president, I will never support Medea Benjamin, whose video is flying around lately. It's all good to protest some U.S. policies, but to allow your group you co-founded to engage in such deadly and revolting war propaganda is beyond shameful, particularly since it influenced a leftist audience that might be confused on Syria. Now very deliberately does this as well, spouting war propaganda against Syria and Russia in the lead up to the liberation of Aleppo, Holocaust in Aleppo. The list of Syrians they suggest following is the list of main war propagandists, including Bilal Abdul Karim, Syrians addressing the atrocities at Twitter. Lina Shami, Rama Kudemi, Bana Alabed, Gattaro de Aleppo, Bilal Abdul Karim, Wa'ad, and coping.org Syria, spouting war propaganda. So there's a bunch of sources, bunch of videos you can see on this. I don't know if I'll put a link up. So not now. And they're the white helmets. There's photos. So let's check on these photos, okay? Human Rights Watch. They're tweeting Human Rights Watch. They're a known Zionist collaborator, Zionist NATO collaborator. The Russian-Syrian coalition committed war crimes. What war crimes? They're defending their country. They're defending a democratically elected president, Bashar al-Assad, and they're defending him from NATO and the Zionists and the Americans. So they say the Russian-Syrian coalition committed war crimes during a month-long bombing aerial campaign of opposition-controlled Aleppo. So this is blatant Zionist, NATO, New World Order war crimes that the Illuminati and the Bilderberg Group and Trilateral Commission like to push. And what did we say? Send condolences to Lebanon, France, Iraq, and Syria. At the end of last week, we witnessed horrific attacks that lit scores dead and hundreds wounded in Beirut, Baghdad, and Paris. These brutal and unconscionable strikes against civilians have been contributed to Daesh. People in Syria are also being slaughtered every day by Daesh and the murderous Assad regime. They're not murderous. They're defending their country against Daesh, you moron. Send your condolence note with your signature to the people of France, Lebanon, Iran, Iraq, and Syria, and we will hand deliver them to their embassies in D.C., except for Syria. Oh, this is complete lunacy. This is complete BS, man. They're accusing a democratically elected leader of war crimes for defending his country against the Zionists, against NATO, against the Bilderberg Group, the United States, Britain, France, the Khalijis, Turkey, Canada, Australia, the Illuminati, Knights Templar, Trilateral Commission, and New World Order. They're accusing a democratically elected leader defending his country of war crimes. That is ludicrous. And here's some white helmet propaganda. The regime of Bashar al-Assad, with the support of his allies, has cut off people from Medea, Syria, from the rest of the world, depriving them badly needs supplies like food. That's more Hasbara. That's more Zionist propaganda. And there's a picture of the white helmets. By the way, the white helmets are Daesh and Jaish al-Nusra. Jaish al-Islam, Jahbad al-Nusra. That's who the white helmets are. So this is typical Zionist, New World Order, Illuminati propaganda. And Ali Salam, so y'all check out his Ali Salam. Shout out to Ali Salam. Shout out to Ikhlas and to Eva Bartlett, by the way. Ali Salam says, I once put on a grassroots protest against war in Yemen outside the LA consulate/DC assembly, along with a week of action. Not doing it for ego. Code Pink was about to come on board until they backed out because Zionist was in the campaign language. No one showed up due to lack of support. And how my perspective. So Diane Shamma, she's okay. She's not the best. She colludes with Zionist gatekeepers. How my perspective evolved about Syria. While in Gaza, I read Angry Arab Service that a blogger frequenting Syria noticed the opposition was morphing into Al-Qaeda. Then I listened to the late Patrick Seals on DN returning from Syria. His narrative matched the blogger. At rallies bombarded by the opposition narrative, was not sure about Bashar, as remember years before saying in a hillside village in Lebanon, meeting up with Syrian forces while hiking. Truth be told, during the civil war, Lebanese government invited Syria as a peacekeeper. Wow. So when the Maronites and the Sunnis were fighting, and the Maronites, Sunnis, and Shias were all fighting each other, well, the Muslims were defending Lebanon against the Maronite extremists. Syria was invited in as a peacekeeper. Okay. So where is that alayhi salam quote I wanted to show you? It is somewhere, because it, all right, so here are the replies. All right, so here's what Ali Salam says, and this is in private emails in 2015. And this, so she asked, Diane Shamus asked him what year this was, and he says in 2015 in private emails, well, they use the term Zionist to refer to the Palestinian national cause. They're gatekeepers in the same way as Chomsky and JVP. What it seems is that they don't want people to know that the Zionists are behind all the wars in the Mideast. And Diane Shamus says, JVP talks about Zionism. But don't mention the Zionists don't mention Israel along with the rest of the imperialists. Imperialists have a hand in Mideast wars. Mainly, JVP focused on Palestine. JVP endorsed a good yeah, that's very weak language. Endorsed a good comparison on the Zionist exportation of military attacks to U.S. law enforcement. And so here's what Ali Salam says. Here's his amazing rebuttal. This is what I wanted to share with you. JVP attacks legitimate activists who tell the truth that goes beyond what they deem the acceptable parameters of discourse. Since when do the occupiers have the right to tell the oppressed what to say? They also oppose armed resistance and supported Zionist-backed Syrian rebels. Yeah, so JVP. So let's see what they have to say. Syria. See if we can pull this up. So here's the Hasbara, the Zionist propaganda, Jewish extremist propaganda that JVP. So here's what they say. So they call, in the context of the Arab Spring uprising, Syrians rose up in March 2011 to call for the end of the dictatorship of Bashar al-Assad, whose regime continued the brutality of his father Hafez al-Assad. Rule begun in 1971. The uprising was and continues to be violently repressed by the Assad regime. The Syrian government has used highly destructive barrel bombs, chemical weapons, siege, and starvation as tools of war against their own people and prevented. This is complete Zionist propaganda. And that presented access to humanitarian relief. In addition, al-Assad's regime's crimes against humanity. So they're slandering Bashar al-Assad, and they're proving Ali Salam correct. Yeah. So let's go back to what Ali Salam said. JVP attacks legit activists who tell the truth that goes beyond what they deem acceptable parameters of discourse. Since when do occupiers have the right to tell the oppressed what to say? They also oppose armed resistance and support Zionist-backed Syrian rebels. And this is true of the majority of Jews in America. They support either a one-state solution or two-state solution, depends if they're Zionist gatekeepers or full-blown Zionists. And they support Zionist-backed Syrian rebels. So this is the gatekeeping. If you say something that they deem unacceptable, I mean, you're telling the truth, you call a Zionist, you call a spade, they will get triggered. They will get triggered and turn into little snowflakes. Wallahi, it's the truth. I know from experience that if you expose the Zionists and they get triggered because it's outside of the realms of acceptable discourse or whatever Zionist rules they have in place, right? They will get triggered, and their only method is BDS. They don't support armed resistance, Palestinian armed resistance. They don't support Ansarullah or the Houthis in Yemen. They support either a one-state solution or a two-state solution. And this is true of all Jewish groups in the United States. Okay, they do. This is their version of Zionist gatekeeping. If you're a legitimate activist who tells the truth that goes beyond what they deem the acceptable parameters of discourse, they will smear and slander you. If you tell the truth about Bernie Sanders, they'll call you a troll. I've had it happen to me. If you tell the truth about how Zionists control the government, how Zionists largely control entertainment and the National Basketball Association, they will slander you and smear you as a troll. Okay? And what else? And if you tell them that that the electoral politics is a dead end and Palestine will only be liberated by armed resistance, they will also smear you as a troll. So they are Zionist gatekeepers. You know what I'm saying? American Jews, the U.S. quote-unquote so-called U.S. Jewish left, if you tell the truth beyond what they deem as the parameters of acceptable discourse, they will smear and slander you. This is why they're not our allies. This is why I don't do interfaith stuff. Wallahi. Because why? Allah is the one true God. There is one true God, and that is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is his messenger. Okay? This is exactly why I don't do interfaith work. I am willing to talk with Shias. Wallahi, I am willing to talk with Shias on anti-colonial stuff and, religion. I'm willing to debate religion with Shias. I am willing to, talk about Sunni Shia unity, Sunni Shia solidarity with one another against the Zionists, against NATO, against the New World Order, against the Illuminati. Wallahi, I'm willing to talk about this stuff. I'm willing to talk about this. But I do not do interfaith dialogue or interfaith gatherings because too often left-wing activists, especially left-wing Muslim activists, especially left-wing Sunni Muslim activists, are forced to cave in to Zionist imperialist demands by the so-called American Jewish left. And that is why I don't do interfaith work, and that is why I do not seek many allies. I mean, there's only one guy who there's one person comprises the entire American Jewish left, Stanley Cohen. And I'll like his tweets occasionally, but other than that, the American Jewish left, the so-called American Jewish left, is a bunch of Zionist gatekeepers. And if you do interfaith work with them and you bring up colonialism, if you bring up Palestine or any Zionist war crimes, and tell the truth beyond the realms of what they deem acceptable parameters or whatever. What did he call it? He had a better word than I did. My English, I was born here, but my English ain't the best. Let's see. Yeah, so the so-called American Jewish left attacks legit activists who tell the truth that goes beyond what they deem as the acceptable parameters of discourse, and they oppose armed resistance in Palestine, and they support Zionist-backed Syrian rebels. They cheer on the Iraq War. They support the funding of the Iraq War. They are Zionist shills there. That's why they're called Zionist gatekeepers. They do gatekeeping. They use flowery rhetoric like Bernie Sanders, but they, at the end of the day, they're Zionist gatekeepers. And if you tell the truth and the whole truth about what is going on in Palestine or whatever, or any if you tell the truth about any kind of imperialism in Western Asia, North Africa, or East Africa, or even in West Africa, they will slander you. They will smear you. If you tell the truth of what goes beyond the acceptable parameters of discourse, they will slander you. They are hypocrites, folks. You have to understand the American Jewish left. They are hypocrites. They are liars. And they will smear and slander you. Most of them will smear and slander you, and if you tell the truth beyond the parameters of what they deem acceptable. And that is why I don't do interfaith movements or interfaith dialogue or whatever. But I am willing to do intersect dialogues between Sunni and Shia. So if you're Shia out there and you want to talk to me or whatever, DM me on Twitter, whatever. And remember, folks, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the true God, and the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is his messenger. Hope you have a great day, and that's all I have for today. Peace.